Yes, you can
Okay.
start.
Good evening, dear learners. We are moving
I think
to.
Corona has joined, so okay, at least one student is there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. How
Good
are you?
evening, Karan. We are taking all possible best
Yeah.
kind of measure to help, but students are not coming.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so start.
Okay, I'll start. Good evening, dear learners. We are moving to Unit 42 or MDI 4, that migration to West Asia. So that is our topic today that we are going to discuss. Uh, in the last class, we were discussing on the brain drain. That is Unit 41. We were discussing on. So today we are going to discuss about the migration perspective of Indians to West Asia, and what are the profiles of Indians in West Asia. So, what are the profiles in a sense, whether they are skilled or multi skilled or they are unskilled workers? What profile the people have, or in a very simple term, we put in what CV they have when they are moving to West Asia. So, normally that we are going to discuss in this. And the working conditions of Indian workers in West Asia is very, very important because people are high in West Asia from India. And that another thing is Indian government policies to manage immigration, and impact of West Asia migration on India and West Asia's indigenization policies. So, as we discussing today, we might have read in the newspaper that US is sending around uh, number of people who they consider as illegal migrants of India to India back. And there was a discussion, and our prime minister talked over the phone. And if you see the Hindu newspapers today, you find that it is few Indians are back. I think around 200 or something. But worst case in it, what is the they are sending the Indians not in a normal aircraft, but the aircraft which is used in the army. Okay, army aircraft they are using. That's what the Hindu newspaper they have written. Sending the people who consider as a illegal migrants is normal. It is not only this time is happening. It's normal, but the way they send it is something is peculiar. Okay, so that with that we start the class. Is the learning objective is of this is the historical account of migration from India to West Asia that we are going to discuss, and to map the trend in migration of Indian towards West Asia over the period of time. So to understand the policies of both the home as well as destination countries to tackle the challenges from such migration. So, dear learners, when we are in when you're talking about the migration to West Asia, you should need to understand that the how the population there. Okay, almost 30 million Indians are there in West Asia. And when we talk about the West Asia, includes the GCC nations like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman. Okay, so what is all about West Asia? When you talk about these countries, that comes into our mind is these are the countries which are population, which are the countries of people belong to Muslim community. Okay, so that's one thing when we talk about this automatically comes into our mind. And the West Asian countries, when you take it comprises of 12 member countries: Bahrain, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, State of Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and all those things. Why people migrate here? When we talk about these countries, we imagine or we come to the conclusion that people move from West Asian countries are basically are from the semi-skilled or unskilled workers. But there are about 30 million migrants from India are now in West Asian countries, 13 lakhs people. So there are two major phases of emigration of Indian workers after India's independence. That we know already. There are two major phases. One is when we have to look into after the independence to many developed countries like such as USA and Europe, and the next was in the mid of 1970s to West Asia. So after independence, when you look into this, especially after 1970s, people moved to West Asian countries as a result of oil boom economy. So oil based economy, right? So these countries where we listed above has a source or resource of oil, and the manpower is low because, and another thing is the demand for the oil is high. So this made a kind of supply and demand or economic concept that they need a human resource high. And India and West Asia had a strong connection right from the beginning via trade. And Indians now also, you see, we were given a kind of better privilege in those the countries when the Indian Prime Minister goes, because and bring the lot of strong connections and business, and kind of reciprocal relationship in those countries are high. So when you talk about these Indians were settled in Persian Gulf who imported goods from India, sold them throughout the Arabian Peninsula. And you see that when you talk about the 1930s nearly, and due to the development of Bahrain Petroleum Company, the people, apart from trade, skilled people such as nurses, techniques, clerks, who also migrated, because this is when they look into the oil companies, a lot of hazardous will happen, industrial accident will happen, right? So it also needs a lot of technicians and clerks to take over this business. So the majority of migration to West Asia is confined to six countries initially, that is called UAE, United Emirates. Okay, that all these countries on the GCC, that Gulf Cooperation Council. Okay, when you talk about UAE, this has the countries, six countries, namely Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates, right? And you have the all these together form a Gulf Cooperation Council. Very, very important. GCC countries. So these countries are called GCC countries. Okay, these six countries. And as we I have said, this oil boom, which marked the beginning of the development of these countries. Okay, so because they are selling oil, we know that due to this there are a lot of calamities, war has happened, and the first wave of construction began where the contract were issued to multinations by the government to build highways, roads, airports, and private housing, etc. So they need to develop the infrastructure because they need to do it, continue their trade, involved in the trade continuously. So there was a major oil boom which marked the beginning of the development of these countries. And there were mainly men from Arab and Asian countries such as Korea and India and Philippines who were migrated to this type and these GCC countries, Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which I have listed six countries. And you see that the due to this oil boom, they need to develop the infrastructure. First, the infrastructure like road, airports, private housing. Okay, think apart from there. So they go, sometimes they move as a family, so they need to construct a school. You see that in some Gulf countries, they have a school, CBSE schools they were established. And even I see some of my colleagues go there and teach Tamil there because the Tamil population is high, and they will recruit people. You see in newspaper, they recruit people from Kerala to teach Malayalam there, right? So there are kind of regional language medium in Arab countries because the population is high. So the government need to build a infrastructure, facilitate the people, those who are migrated. Okay. So the multinational firms would often pay for all migration costs, including passport, visa, and transportation, and other miscellaneous costs. I know one of my friends is working, and he is used to be given 2 years contract and to and fro, and he can take the family, and he got married, and he took his wife, and even during the pregnancy and everything, they gave a maternity leave, and all the charges of the delivery and everything were taken by the government of the particular country. I think is in Qatar. Right. So those many facilities are given nowadays for people in those countries. So the first wave of the initial period, 1973, when you say the first wave of construction, the second wave began with a collaboration from local and foreign partners. So they first developed the trade, and they started with collaboration for the trade, which happens after 1980s. And those workers who were already a part of their first construction wave, through informal channels, informed their friends and relatives regarding the work opportunities available in GCC countries. So they started taking their own friends, their own family members to get a job there, because they built this was a diaspora link. Yesterday we discussed during the class how far they invest. Then we see that remittance, entrepreneurial activities, and we say that knowledge sharing, right? So this is the knowledge sharing, and they send the knowledge, there's a vacancy and everything, so they try to pull the people. And GCC countries also, when they recommend and they take them. Okay, so soon the supply of workers were increased, and they were able to fulfill their demand in the construction firms. So as a result, the employer before bore the full migration cost. Later, these costs were cut short. Okay, so initially, when they need more demand, when they need people, more people, the migration costs were fully borne by the those hosting countries. And after that, when they were surplus, when they have everything, then they started reducing their cost. And what they are doing nowadays is that for semi-skilled or unskilled workers, they bore it their cost, and after reaching there, they will put in the agreement and they cut the salary a bigger amount, 10% or 12% as till they reach the fulfill the still they pay the amount fully to the company or the employer. So this is the situation. And then in 1990s, we see the Gulf War affected lots of migrants in the affected countries. So this is called a Persian Gulf War. So this war forced them to return to their home country. So this is as a return migration takes place. However, there was also an increase in the migration of Indians after the Gulf Coast. That is 1990s, because of again the oil boom. So during this period, approximately 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 lakh people received a work permit every year to work in Gulf countries. Imagine. So in 1990s, early 1990s, there was a Gulf War. We may be familiar. This is called the Persian Gulf War. It happened between the countries, affected the whole countries because they were start fighting for the oil resource. So then it's like a COVID. Then after, there are a lot of people received. Imagine 3 to 4 lakh people received work permit every year. And however, during the period in early in 2000, so restrictive policies were adopted. Okay, so because to cut short the migration by some of the Gulf countries, not everyone, like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, to restrict the flow of migration into their country, because there is to stop the illegal migration, and in order to get the skilled people to their country. That's the main two reasons why they have come with a kind of restriction or the policies to recruit the people. So this was done to preserve the work for the local population. This process known as a Saudiization or quarterization. Okay, means that they call it as like urbanization, privatization. They put the country first, Saudiization, quarterization means that they form the policies and everything to make that the migration takes place in the as per the rules and regulations. So this is called a Saudiization. So uh, So this restriction, this restriction, the number of people with work permit to Gulf was reduced. So automatically it will reduce because it has a lot of rules and regulations, and there was a saturation in the labor market. So they come to the saturation point, means that when you say saturation, so I have certain limit and that limit is being fulfilled. So along with that, the certain sectors, there was also a kind of dearth of workers. That means a kind of confusion in it, as a local workers were not willing to do some of the manual tasks, right? That's called as semi-skilled or unskilled. The dearth of workers, the local workers are not willing to do that. Okay, so along with that, due to this localization, the wages demanded by the local workers also increased, which added to the cost of production of the organization. So this is the problem the Arab countries has faced. So the people hesitate to work in a kind of work like a kind of scavenger or the cleaning purpose or the works which needs a lot of a kind of blue collar workers. So since 2000 onwards, if you see, there has been an increase in the demand of both semi-skilled as well as skilled workers in Arab countries. Also, because of increasing oil price, the revenue generated were much higher than the preceding years, which added to the demand of labor. So, as a result, the government of India also took initiative to facilitate the migration of the labor to the countries where they demanded. Right. So, almost, as I have said earlier, of because those, so that they have schools in Malayalam, okay, and all those things. So, and 70% of the total migrants are either from semi-skilled or unskilled, and 20 to 30% of the professionals, and rest others are domestic help. So imagine almost 70% are falling under the semi-skilled and unskilled workers when you talk about West Asia, and only 20 to 30 are professionals. Okay, so there is a trend because the people are hesitate or people are not willing to work in that kind of field. So that is the condition when you talk about the issues and the migration trends in West Asia, right? So this was we are discussing, and high demand for labor during Asia's infrastructure boom, better wages in living conditions compared to India, and limited opportunities in unemployed. Limited opportunities and unemployment in India has forced them to move there. Okay, so when you talk about exclusively on Indian migrants in the CGC countries, okay, we see that United Arab Emirates has the highest number of Indian migrants, and uh, Kuwait has the least. Okay, when you talk about in 1990s, and uh, you see that uh, United Arab Emirates has a better policy by looking into the data, because the Kuwait and Qatar has come with a lot of restriction and policies so that people are not able to move to those countries. And you see that since 2014, the number of Indian immigrants to CGC countries has been decreasing due to the slowdown of the economy. And after that, you see that the migration flow during after COVID-19 was halted again and mainly have repatriated due to the pandemics, and various sectors has got abrupt closure. Okay, this is the reason why after 2019 there is a decrease in the migration to West Asian countries. And we now look into the profiles of Indians in West Asia. What is a profile, right? We need to understand in that angle also, right? When you talk about their profile, initially dominated by unskilled and semi-skilled labor, okay, because they need those people only. So the expatriate community has gradually expanded to include small but growing number of skilled and professional migrants in the later part. So when you talk about the around, according to the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs (MOIA), around 6 million people are living there, and Indians live and work in West Asia primarily in Gulf Cooperation Council countries. That is the main thing. So this GCC only many Indians are living. So Saudi Arabia has the largest Indian community in West Asia, and with approximately 2 million Indians. Okay, followed by UAE with approximately 1.8 million. So it's very close. So Saudi Arabia has lot of Indians, around 2 lakh, and 1.8 from UAE. So, and it has uh, Indians account for a sizable proportion of the population in number of states like Bahrain, Qatar, and everything. So when we look into the perspective of profile, okay, so Kerala stands higher. Okay. And in 2011, and you see people from Bihar, people from Tamil Nadu, people from West Bengal, Rajasthan. So these are the countries where people live larger. People from Odisha has also shares bigger amount. So the South Indian states of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala account for the majority of the Indian population. In contrast, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Rajasthan account for the remainder. Right? So these are the countries. I say it once again: Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Rajasthan, Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, Odisha. So these are these states. So in that, you see that the southern states play a vital role in migration. And what are the majority of the Indian migrants to the region are? Okay, so here unskilled laborers employed in construction firms, municipalities, agricultural farms, as a domestic workers. So unskilled laborers are high, and workers who are skilled and semi-skilled, professional in the public and private sector such as physician, engineer, account, nurses, and paramedics, and businessmen, entrepreneur. So these are the couple of areas where the majority of Indians and migrants workers. In that, unskilled laborers play a major population. That means 70 percentage of total population work in the unskilled labor in construction firms and municipalities, and workers who are skilled and semi-skilled, and professionals, and the skilled laborers are less. Okay, so these are the profile of the Indian laborers in West Asian countries. So when you look into the working conditions of Indian workers, right? So the working condition, we look into that. If we imagine that the Gulf countries very hard, right? So they need to work in the industries. We have in India Factories Act, which says that protection. There should be uh, a canteen if there are quite number of employees in is there. There should be a maternity benefit. There should not be a hazardous work, and all those things. So here we need also to imagine the people of India are working in the oil corporation, or where this oil is being pumped. Okay, so look, we should imagine the condition of the working. Okay, the working, what, where they are working, but what for the safety that need to be answered here. So those who are high skilled professions enjoys comparatively better working condition than semi skilled and unskilled laborers in those CGC countries. And semi skilled and unskilled workers are mostly hired through recruitment agencies located in various places in India. Right? Merely we say that contract labor act we have. So you see that if you go to visit some colleges in India or some places, you or industries, you have a contract labor system, so they cannot claim for any kind of privileges as like a full term employees. All right. So there are cases. So in the same way, these unskilled or semi-skilled workers are hired, means that there is an agency play a role in giving them the unskilled and semi-skilled labors, which is not possible in the professional employment. Right. So there are cases where these agencies generally charge a large sum of money from the workers in order to provide them with a job. So these agencies, which is a middleman, we say that between these Arab countries and India. So later, when the job were provided, the agency refrained from holding any accountability for the welfare of the workers provided them. So they don't have any accountability, but they may promise sometimes. But you see some newspapers, they say they will get 1 lakh or 2 lakh rupees that they get a job in Arab country, then they will abscond or they will send them, and after that they will abscond, and their passport is taken away, and all those things we learn. We read a lot of news about it. So sometimes they even take away their passport, which makes the migrant workers quite vulnerable and dependent on the mercy of these workers. So as per the regulation, the recruitment agencies need to check the background of the employers before handling the workers to them. Now, I know how far the other states are functioning in this regard. Now, the Tamil Nadu government, since most of the people are going Arab countries, there is a separate department for this. They are issuing the recruitment notice in Arab countries, and periodically they are advertising in the newspaper and TV and social media, stating that uh, uh, verify the agencies or verify the recruitment organization before you reach Arab countries or any countries. So because there is a lot of cyber crime and there's a lot of money laundering in this. So however, in order to earn quick money, these agents do not conduct any background checks and hand over the workers to the employees. So there has been an immense number of cases of abuses, torture, harassment, and sexual abuse of nurses, domestic help, and construction workers happens in the Arab countries. So there have been several cases where the workers have not been paid for months. Wage theft is one of the major issues during COVID-19. So the wages are sometimes abruptly deducted or paid late. So these are the problems when it is issued with that. And as per labor laws, many of the West Asian countries, the working hours are around 8 hours a day, whereas most of the workers are made to work much beyond the prescribed working hours. So this is kind of an abuse without extra pay, even, right? So they are going with the agent, they are losing money, sometimes losing passport. At the same time, their workplace harassment takes place by giving a lot of hours of work, more than 8 hours, which is against International Labor Organization. Okay, so and sometimes they are even made to work for the work on a day which is supposed to by to be their weekly off day, right? So there is no weekly off, even the Sundays, and they should to work or any weekly off they cannot take. That the term called kafala system, okay, which is applicable most of the West Asian countries, also adds to the exploitation of workers. Kafala, that means yeah, they give lot of work without a kind of mercy or something. So some of the countries such as Bahrain has already repealed the system. However, many other countries are still continuing in variety of ways. So under kafala system, what they do, so every worker should have a job, okay, and sponsoring employer to be eligible to work in the West Asian countries. And this tends to put them negotiating power in the hand of the employer, who may use it as per their own needs, right? So every worker should have a job and sponsoring employee to be eligible to work in West Asian countries, right? So they go and do whatever they want with the worker. So confiscated of passport of the workers by either the employer or the agent are one of the major concerns raised across the different countries in West Asia. This is the thing which is followed under kafala system, and because of this practice, the workers are left at the mercy of those who have retained their passports and become vulnerable to race wars. Very, very important, because you cannot come back to India or come back to their home countries once the passport is confiscated. And along with that, some employer also hold residence permit of the workers. Okay, so they cannot even go away. I was in Zambia. When we were going out, sometimes the police ask, "Where is your passport?" At least we should have the photocopy of the passport when we are in other countries, or work permit. The both we should have the evidence. Okay, so imagine the passport and the work permit are taken away. So residence permit is one of the important documents which is required by the workers in order to gain permit to work in the many of the West Asian countries. And some countries such as Saudi Arabia also have a law where the employee need to obtain exit permission from their employer before returning to their home country. And this gives lot of power to the employer. So they should give exit permission. However, there has been many instances where the workers are uh, dubbed, or on arrival of foreign land they find the working condition has not been the same as was told them. So they promise something here, come we give a good place and everything. When they reach, they are deprived of all the privileges. So under such circumstances, they are not even left with the option to return, as they need to obtain permission from the employer. So the problem of the West Asian countries is that it gives a lot of power to employer, to which they misuse to exploit the workers in terms of giving working hours, workplace harassment, and confiscating, taking away their rights, right, their property, their documents, which are needed to return. And these governments like Saudi Arabia gives a lot of power that they should give a exit letter or exit document to move from their country. So the employer in many times refuses to grant such permission, or the and the worker ends up getting tied to the employer. Right? It's like a slavery system. Okay, legally they are making. So after that, we need to also look into the place of accommodation where they live. Okay, and it is highly unhygienic and very very poor, and they are generally housed in a labor campus which is generally overcrowded. Okay, with people living in one room or one roof, or one camp around 20 people or 10 people or 30 people. They generally have a one toilet which has to be used by a lot of people, so unhygienic. So therefore the condition is of toilet is generally unhygienic and dirty most of the times. So, and they do not have a separate kitchen for themselves and have to arrange the same within the space allotted. And so this is the, since imagine 70 percentage of the community they are unskilled. So in that case, there is no place for recreation or any other place for privacy. And electricity and water shortage are regular scenario for the people living there, right? So they exploited in terms of working place, the staying place, and the document confiscation. And Gulf countries holds the highest rate of suicide by immigrants. Very very important to note that they have a highest rate of immigrants from India. So which is the highest rate of suicide by immigrant from any nationality. Most of these workers are blue collar workers. That means unskilled or semi-skilled workers. Very very hardening to know that, because uh, even I have some of my relatives working in Gulf countries. You may have, or anyone have, but this needs to be taken, and some reformation need to be taken by both the governments, and in order to bring a better condition of workers in Gulf countries. So we also look into the Indian government policies to management. Okay, so when you talk about the owing to increasing the number of case of workers, right? Kind of the, okay, government policies. Uh, when you look into the increased number of cases of workers suicide and torture, the government of India taking into consideration the education skill level of workers migrating to West Asian countries. So the government is keenly looking into what type of workers are going. So they developed a devised mechanism to check the unlawful activities. That is the first one. So because in through unlawful activities means that through improper agencies or not recognized agencies are sending, so that the exploitation is high. Okay, so for granting visa, two categories have been at place. One is immigration check required and immigration check not required. There is a two thing. So when it is ECR and ECNR, when you say ECR, immigration check required. Okay, so ECR category visas are marked by, for either those people who have education level below 10 standard, or for those who are migrate to selected countries which are deemed to be dangerous. Okay, so in that ECR category, visas are marked for either those people who have education low level below 10 standard. So I am going, I studied till 8th standard. So I want to go to the country which is has a deemed to be dangerous as classified by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay, so if it is dangerous country, for example, Qatar, so I am going with 8th standard. So what they have to do? Immigration check required. I should go with ECR. Okay. So what they are doing in under that, owing to the increasing number of cases of mistreatment of migrant workers in West Asia, several West Asian countries has been put under ECR category. So the government has put all those countries under ECR category. All those countries under United Arab countries, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Jordan, Yemen, Sudan, Afghanistan, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Thailand, everything. So any person willing to migrate to any of these countries need to obtain immigration clearance from protector of immigration, right? So that should be clear. So the protector of immigration will check the ground check on whether that company is worth to be giving employment to the other nationals, or do they have any crime activities or the mistreatment of the workers previously. Is there any record or any kind of cases on that particular company? So this is done in order to protect the workers from exploitation by the employees in the foreign land. So here is a figure of 2018 says that the Indian workers who have been granted immigration clearance from 2017 to 11 to 17 gives a very clear data that almost 6 lakhs people in 2011 has given a clearance, have given clearance before they move. So that has been declined to 2019 is 3 lakhs 99,000 because most of the people are not preferring to go to these countries. That's one thing. Or else the professional workers or the skilled laborers are high, so that the 10th plus low education people going to the countries maybe start come down, or the migration to those places has slowed down because of this kind of ill treatment. So there will be another various reasons which you need to study the data that I give to the learners why it has been slowed down. But what the government is taking the prevent to prevent any further cases of harassment of workers, the government of India has imposed restriction on the functioning of private recruitment agencies in India. So you see nowadays you cannot see much private recruitment agencies as before when you are in 2000 or 2010 or yearly, because there is a lot of restriction. Uh, the recruitment of nurses is carried out by government run recruitment agencies. The government has extended this regulation to include the domestic help as well. So, therefore, as per new regulation, those who wish to employ Indian domestic help, they need to place request with these government-run recruitment agencies. So they cannot directly recruit. So the all the CGC countries are they should recruit people through government-run recruit agencies. They should ask them that they need people. Okay, so these recruitment agencies, not guided by profit, would ensure the safety of its workers by comprehensive background check, and this may help to curb the several unlawful practices adopted by the employers. It's a good government initiative because the agencies are not running for profit. Okay, I sent 10 workers, so you give me $10,000. So this is not running for profit. This is running for the regulatory purpose, right? So they should a verification check, and after that they will recruit and they send. So several government recruitment agencies have been added, including Overseas Manpower Corporation of Tamil Nadu. Okay, that's called Overseas Manpower Corporation of Tamil Nadu. Uttar Pradesh Financial Corporation, Overseas Manpower Company of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, Overseas Manpower Company, right? So these are few which regulates in their state level as state level agencies. So what is the thing that government has taken a very very important step in terms of a kind of regulation in taking the system into at a greater level, so that the exploitation will come down. And what is a but the awareness among this within the people are very very low, that we need to understand. So the government also need to popularize these agencies and everything to the people, so that the exploitation will come down and they will not be cheated. And what is the socio-economic impact of this West Asian migration? And the socio-cultural and economic ramification, we see when we talk about the cultural shift of this migration definitely will impact first on the economical development. When the economy is developed, then they will develop socially. The status of them will develop, and the needs they will be fulfilled. The health system will improve. So there is a basic understanding. So since all migrants to the region work on temporary contracts and few can afford to bring their families, they maintain strong ties to India and their home states. This plays a role. Okay, it's not like some countries like US or Canada where you can bring the family and everything. It's not that easy. And the Arab countries plays a very very strong on the contract based. Getting the citizenship is not that easy, or we cannot get the citizenship. And over the year, India, especially in general, some states such as Kerala have received a significant number of remittances that contributed not just to the GDP of the state but also socio-economic development of the families. Not only do remittances indirectly employ a sizable number of people at home, but the remittance economy has also affected land ownership and agricultural practices. Right. So this has resulted in an increase in the removal of one's productive land and paddy fields to make way to for new structure. However, the immigration increased social mobility and resulted in more equitable distribution of income. So, the two aspects of this social mobility are the spread of multi-story residence and automobile ownership. Right, the most apparent manifestation, especially Kerala, because those are from Kerala, a lot of migration to Gulf countries. So, Kerala's migrant supplier profile is the Gulf wives, all right? So women whose husband have relocated to the Gulf and who are now responsible for managing their household. According to 2011 Kerala Migration Survey, there are around 1.2 million of these women. Okay, 1 lakh people are called Gulf wives. Means that they are managing the household in Kerala. While some argue that international labor migration contributes to slew of social ills, it frequently serves the benefit in disputes. Okay, we see the one aspect that when you talk about this kind of things, so it is a social illness, right? Husband is somewhere, wife is somewhere. When you talk it in the social perspective, and the migrant man's non-migrant spouse develops an independent outlook due to having to manage the household, including financial transaction. So the wives are learning the financial transaction, financial auditing, or financial knowledge is improving among the wives of the Gulf wives. Okay, so but the management system also improved. The women are empowered. So additionally, given the state's kind of high degree of earning to migrate to the Gulf and its relatively high illiteracy rate, so migrants frequently seek educated wives. So a form of Gulf phenomena has been observed in terms of declining birth rates among Muslims in Kerala. Okay, possibly because of the fact that rising numbers of migrants want educated husbands, and so women are increasingly acquiring higher education. So that kind of a social, I don't say disorder, but social change is happening in the Kerala community in terms of the migrant husband's family, right? So, what about a kind of indigenization policies? So, West Asian remains an attractive destination for Indian workers for last few decades, and in Saudi Arabia increased its emphasis on its through its Naticat program compared to its smaller neighbor. Saudi Arabia has a sizable population of around 290 million people, and there is an increase in the people migrate to uh, other of the Gulf countries. Yeah, policies and working and living conditions, health issues, there has been an increasing return migration of Indians. So this is the condition when we talk about the as a West Asian perspective. So there are a lot of return migration, and uh, minimal indigenization. So people, on the other hand, Saudi Arabia has the largest population in the CGC, with huge number of young people expected to enter the labor force in the future decades. So the indigenization is not taking place. Okay, there is no policies to make them to feel that they are in the homeland. Okay, so that is a bigger issue when you talk about the return migration that is happening in terms of say West Asian countries. So as I have said, exploitation, more working hours, no proper accommodation or proper living conditions. So this makes them, and confiscating their passports and everything. It makes the youngsters a kind of agitation and kind of fear or phobia to go to Gulf countries for a job. So, okay. So the COVID-19 pandemic associated developments in the West Asian countries have direct and adverse impacts on low and semi-skilled migrant workers. Right. So what is happening after COVID-19, right? So during COVID-19, there were several cases of wage theft in CGC countries, right? Wage theft in a sense they are not given wage, but they taken the work. Okay, when an employer does not give the worker the wage they owe to them, right? So that is the wage theft. So I'm going for a job. They are promising that they will give $2,000, but they are not giving 2,000. They are giving just $1,000. It's a wage theft, and they are not giving a salary. That is also wage theft. Okay, so the during COVID-19, there is a wage theft that is happening in the West Asian countries. The survey of Indian labor in CGC countries were conducted by Center for Indian Migrant Studies, Kerala, based on a sample of 3,345 migrant workers. So, what is that? Vande Bharat mission during COVID-19, they have done a study. There is 11% of the surveyed were found to be the victims of wage theft, right? And that means the 300 to kind of 350 people out of 3,345. So construction sector accounts 90 percentage, manufacturing and transportation 2 percentage, and 2.5 comprising the other sectors such as domestic and retail and medical. In this field the wage theft has happened, right? So as per the declaration done by this study, online registration on this statement by the Ministry of State of External Affairs in Parliament on 17th December, the wage theft is huge in the Gulf countries. All right. So Gulf repeat rates uh, under Vande Bharat mission during COVID-19 brought this many people. Okay, they during COVID-19 they returned to India, right? So that is the situation when you talk about the West Asian countries, uh, uh, the condition of the workers. Okay, so the key things we need to understand in this unit is all about the what is the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC. Okay, so what are the countries are there, and how this has developed, right? How they started coming. So these all countries, six countries in it. Okay, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, UAE. So these are the countries falls under the Gulf Cooperation Council. And we also need to understand when the government brought the policy, there is a protector of immigration who checks and sees whether the people who are migrating is reasonable, and the companies are having the proper history, or they check the authentication of everything. So wage theft is another thing, very important aspect when we learned about this unit. So this unit gives a clear outlook on the condition of the people working in the Gulf countries, CGC countries, as well as uh, uh, and the government policies in order to taking care of that. Okay, so that is very very important. So not to sum up, we learned on the migration to West India that 30 million Indians, 30 lakhs people are there, and main in GCC countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman, and the trace migration trends to West Asia, analyze issues and policies related to migration. So we have the initially the oil bloom has made the migration to go to higher, and again there is a war due to oil boom, and there is a decline, and after that again there is an increase after the war got over in mid 1990s, and we have the kind of what do you say, uh, uh, when you talk about the high demand for labor during West Asia infrastructure boom and better wage and living conditions compared to India, it is the initial period. And there is a profile of migration. When you talk about the profile of migration, we learn about unskilled labors and are high comparatively to skilled labors. And the semi-skilled labors and unskilled labors constitute 70% of the total population migrated to West Asian countries. And when you talk about the working conditions, we learned that there is a high level of exploitation, living condition is overcrowded, and the kafala system, restrictive sponsorship system contributing to the worker vulnerabilities, right? And socio-economic impacts on India is high level of remittance, but even though there is an exploitation and everything, the state like Kerala, so cultural change is taking place in the system, right? So it's called a Gulf wise. They are consider how they are managing the transaction and everything. So government policies, when you talk about that, the ECR, immigrant check required, safeguards less educated workers below 10 or 10 standard, and regulated recruitment has come into pictures. Okay, and indigenization policies in host countries, and increased return migration of Indian workers. So that we also learned the challenges during COVID-19, job losses, wage theft, and increased return migration due to economic disruptions. Right. So wage theft cases during the pandemic were prevalent in CGC countries. So this is what all about what is the learning today. When you talk about uh, the challenges or the migration to West Asia. Right? Any questions?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Good evening.
Yes, sir. So what the thing is about the naturalization. When we talk about these countries, Gulf countries, it's mean that is many of the policies for get naturalization is too difficult for them. What we can say about this matter?
Can you repeat your question, sir? I am unable to get it. What is
Okay, I
yeah?
was saying that the main thing when we talk about these countries, Gulf countries,
Gulf countries, yes.
yes, it's about the naturalizations.
Nationalization.
Naturalization.
Okay, okay.
Yes, and I want to know from you
Hmm.
why the policies about the naturalization in these countries it's too much restrictive for the people.
Too much restriction.
Yeah, for the people get naturalization from this
Yeah,
country.
nationalization. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Kind of citizenship.
yes, yes.
I hope we have learned on various type of citizenship. For example, uh, you see here by birth in India you get a citizenship, right?
Yes,
If you are born in India, you get a citizenship. And you see in US the same scenario, right?
yes.
They have a different policies. Even if you are born, you cannot get the citizenship. They have a different policies on that. But India is different. But if you take Gulf countries, the first thing is they are taking only on contract. You see to it, the condition of taking any employee, whether skilled or unskilled laborers, it is through contract. You cannot be there unless until you extend your contract. That is one thing, right? It is not like if I live for certain years, like for example 15 years, if I live in India, I can get a citizenship, where I cannot do like that in Gulf countries. It is purely because of the constitution of that particular country, or if they don't have, may not have constitution, they have their beliefs and system, their religious system and everything. So we need not to discuss on that. But the thing is, it is purely on the rules and regulation of it, and they may have certain kind of a factor not to take the other people into their nation and give citizenship, right? So that it is purely a policy based, right? And through policy they are restricting it, nothing beyond it, because it is a government policies and everything. It is nothing uh, uh, to command on it or to say that whether it is good or not. That is a separate thing to discuss. But it is like the country's policies to or regulation on giving the citizenship to other nationals.
Okay, sir. I got it.
Yeah. Thank you. I close it now.